Okay, so what else do we need to do? The date. Right, the date.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we do the date, though, I was thinking, since this page starts to become a little complicated, so one thing we could do is take a part of it and just rip it out. Let's say we take this and remove it and put it into separate class, separate view, class task box. Let's say parents view. And put the whole thing here. Now this is gone because I removed it, but if I add this object here, the whole thing is back. There is one slight change though, is if we inspect the element now, it will appear to have task box everywhere, and this task box will be around the whole thing as ID. So it's a new container. That's how you.
This class might be also outside of this file, right?
Yeah. Normally it would be outside. Sometimes I let classes to be on the same as the page as an exception if it's not used on any other page. This is just to split the code. What we could do here is actually say frame. Now it's in the frame.
Cool. How did you do that?
Frame is a class as well as a view, but it is a container, but it uses a different template. In fact, if we're back to view, we can define a round template for this. Default. It's a test. For example, yeah, it's attempts to include test, and HTML. Let's say div style border dash red, and then we also in template we need to define where the content goes. So if we load down, you see there's a thing around it, yeah. So I'm now using standard elements and then putting them inside a view with my own template. One thing which is really suggested to add is ID equals name, like this. Otherwise, you won't be able to bind any JavaScript. All elements have this ID set I showed you, and you just need to be consistent. It's not mandatory, if you want, you won't be able to use JavaScript, but it's up to you. The content is a tag, so it's template tag. When I add anything inside this object, it goes into content. So yeah, that's it. Let's do another thing. I showed you a frame. I think you like frame. I'm going to close few files. Let's have columns. This columns, and then left equals column, right. So we create two columns in here, and instead of adding to this, we can add into left column. So it's now on the left. on the right, we could, resurrect this code and add a CRUD there. So you kind of can manipulate interface easily.
For example, if I want just to see an example, how can I move the menu, for example, in the order of the HTML after the content?
Okay, actually, really nice example. All the objects in Agile Toolkit, they look at this function, default template, to find out which template they should use.
Okay.
The same thing applies to API, because the API is actually, if we trace how frontend is defined, it is actually derived from view. So let's just trace API frontend. So that's the parent, which inherits API web. API web inherits API CLI, and API CLI inherits abstract view. Now, why so many APIs? Well, such as architecture. If you look at API CLI, this API is designed for command line interfaces. For example, if you're doing something in command line, you might work with models, but you probably won't need page routing or some other features like templates. That's why it does necessary thing like getting to the config and initializing MySQL if you want to, but it doesn't use templates. Next, if we go to API Web, it's built on top of CLI, but it adds some of the header, sending header if you want to, makes exceptions look nicer, implements rendering, but also it defines default template and instructs to use a file shared. Like any, okay, let me show you how templates is being searched. So if I mistype this, you see that it looks inside to do templates default tested, and then ATK4 templates default tested, and then that's all. So no, actually 3 template shard as well, but the path is different from the one we had before, and the reason is this type. So for different type of data, it could have different list of locations. Templates should sit in the templates folder, and PHP file should sit in the PHP file. So by default it looks in here. If it doesn't find, it goes in ATK4 templates default. If it's not in templates default, it goes in ATK4 template shared. What default means, it is basically a skin. Skin is a set of templates. I think it's easier if I show you with example. I need to fix tasks. Where is tasks? Okay, delete. Skin is defined in the index file as the second argument of frontend. The first was unique identifier, which we call realm, and the second is skin. By default is called default, but I can use elephant, for example. And then if you look at that, well, I know what's in there, but the interface is different. It looks it uses a different CSS file, So
The menu is different.
yeah, the menu is different, the corners are different, and templates can be redefined. It now looks in different folders. So where this elephant and the fold is coming from? In ATK4 we have a folder templates, and there is the elephant. We just have an image and CSS file really, and there's also a default. Again, it have its own CSS, and then you've got shared. So shared has all those many templates, and then you can redefine them inside your skin.
You can basically create your own template and just put it in the folder.
I wouldn't call it template because template is a single file, but you can create your own skin and then put it somewhere. Now what happens with the skin, if you put a file inside skin, like here an elephant, I put a jQuery CSS, it's going to use it. If you don't, it's going to revert to the default in shared file. So if I look at the source here, you see how it includes CSS. It uses elephant for jQuery CSS, but for our other CSS files, it uses the shared. Okay, because they were not found in elephant. So it's, if you place file locally outside of ATK folder, it's going to use it. If not, it's going to go and use the default one. So I will, I think, oh yeah, that's what happened. There's a space in here. So what I will do is I will take a file shared, which is a template for API, and I'm going to duplicate that and then move it into my templates outside, template default in here. It should be called shared as well. If I refresh page, nothing will change now because the file is identical. But let's no. Let me try to change it, and now you see it reflects here.
Okay, so you are overriding everything, just putting in your default template.
Yeah. So what else can I show you? Let's say button. If we put button in here, make a copy and open this one, and put X in here, and now put X in front of buttons. This is basically how it works. You can grid as well if you want to change how grid looks. You could redefine the HTML template.
Can I ask you what is the tag button?
Tag button? This one?
No, this one.
Well, it depends. So the idea is inside a single template, multiple objects can look for what they need in there. And if I open implementation of the button, it was inside view. Look how it loads the template. It uses button, but then it extracts tags button. I think if I specify old button, it just use them some other buttons. I don't know.
Okay.
So it's first in this array, when you return the default template, the first is the file name, and the second is the tag inside that file name. If I don't specify the second one, it's going to consume the whole file.
See.
So this is helpful when you want to define multiple things in a single template. It makes sense sometimes. Okay, now let's go back to shared and see what we could do inside of that. Where is templates? Weird. All right, so I'll just delete button. Move to trash, and that's the shared file. The first thing is obviously we can change things. Let's find the content. So that's the content. Yeah, this is where everything goes. The central area. There is a footer as well, and there is a menu. So let's just know. Actually, yeah, it's the menu tag is defined like this. So let's move it. Near the footer, and the menu is there. So we can move it around. Let's see what's this. It's not used. Tags can be.
You also have logo, as I can see.
Yeah, logo is in there as well. So tags can be self-closing. This is, if you see $$ in here, this is a self-closing tag. That means it opens and closes at the same moment. But this tag is not self-closed, so it opens here, but it closes here. Now the benefit of that tag is this is its default value, but you can reassign to something else, like menu. If I type something in here, there's no effect. But if I go into front end and comment this block out, guess what's going to be there? So it's the default value. When I put object inside, it will delete the default value and it will replace it by the output from the object. So for example, this thing at the bottom, I could, if I go to tasks, for example, and now there is one important thing. It's in order to access this, I need to use with the API, not with the page. This is I was adding all the things that page. Now I need to do this API add hello world. But instead of putting inside content, the third argument defines where it's going to appear. And what was it? The footer text? Like this. And goes there. So that's how you can place object anywhere on the page. And
where the variable footer text come from?
Variable?
No variable, sorry. This one.
It's it's the name of the tag.
Okay.
Text.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I change it to logo, it will appear on the top.
I see. Perfect.
The other way how we can interact with these templates is by using our template class, and templates in here as well is defined as a class. Each view has its own template, so this API template, we could say set footer text 1 to 3. If you do that, it is 1 to 3. Let's try to set logo to 1 to 3. Alright, that works. Now next thing is, if you look at this file, remember how it was including jQuery UI from Elephant, but other files were coming from the shared folder.
Yeah.
The reason is this tag over here. When template is being parsed, if it finds template, surrounded like this, and it can repeat. It will look in multiple folders for this file, and when it finds this file, it will set up a correct path to it. So by default, it used ./atk4 template shared and so on and so on. Okay, so this thing wasn't in a template, but it was prepended. There might be a problem though if I use a subpage. Subpage looks like this. Yeah. Account HP. Oops. In the folder. Let's say test. Inside test, I will put test 1 to 3 PHP. So okay, its name should be page, small page by the way. Test 1 to 3 extends page.
Why did you put it in a subfolder? Just to show me.
To show you what the problem you can run in.
Okay.
With the URLs. Okay, so function init. Because I know if it's a big project, you eventually will need to do some folders, like maybe under task you need add or something, or search. I don't know. And int add. Okay, so if I'm right, it's supposed to be test test 1 to 3. Okay, and it works nice, but you might think this is ugly. Okay, because it's always using this question mark. Now this is depending on setup. So if we look at how our config default is used, it says that all the URL prefixes is going to have this page thing.
Okay.
Now we're not going to change that, but let's create a config file. So we just need to duplicate this. And rename it as a simple config PHP. Now in this one we could change a few things. So the default value is to have page, but in config we could define otherwise. So the prefix is empty. Okay, now if I go here, there is no prefix, so it goes to index page, and the index page is not found. Now what we can do is create htaccess file. And do model write. You know model write?
Just a bit.
On I think so. We want all files without dot in them. To go into index. Yeah, okay, it works. So let's try again. So it's a regular expression for any sequence that doesn't have any dots. We need to rewrite it into index. What is it suddenly complaining about? Oh, I see. Right, so in config PHP we need to set up to do. Okay, so it's back to normal. Now what changed is if you look at how links look, they go like account, tasks, much nicer, friendly URL, yeah. If I go into test 1, 2, 3, this happens. Now, why is this happened? And it is because the template are defined from the current directory. And when all the files are in the same directory, it works fine. But since we have slash and going somewhere inside, this path is incorrect. So
how can we fix it?
To do it, there is this variable atk base path. We could set it up without dot. We need to specify to do. Okay, now it works back again. If we look at the source, it says /to do atk4 templates. So it works by default. You know, it took me a while to break it, but if you go into pretty URLs, you need to set the prefix path properly.
Okay.
So this prefix path is applied on all the templates, and this is how Agile Toolkit figure out how URLs look like. And there's a postfix as well. Yeah, you can do SPX, for example. What this will do is the links will look like SPX. All you need to do is mod rewrite them. So it looks like SP application now. But you can do other things as well. I'll change it back. So it's, I suppose, many frameworks, the way they handle routing is they do it in PHP. The way how Agile Toolkit does is you do it in module write file, which is much faster because you can, if you copy this to Apache and Apache compiles it, and it's much more productive instead of for PHP going through it every time. It's also quite flexible. You can do many interesting things. One thing remaining is you want to highlight in red if something is overdue. Should we do it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, which field is that? Let's highlight this.
Due date. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, we need to decide if it's related with the business logic or presentation logic. In presentation, we have use. In our case, it's grid, which is on the page task. We got tasks in here. And we're using CRUD. This one. Now first let's try to create our own grid. Plus my grid extends. You don't need to redefine init if you don't. Just to be sure it's in there. Something like that. So it's not used. Okay. CRUD class. My CRUD extends CRUD and do public my grid. And now instead of using this CRUD, I need to use my CRUD, and basically used my grid. Another option, that's one option. Another option, and you might be been wondering, if you search for class grid, it defined like this. Now why? And the reason is so that we can replace. Remember how we can create file locally and it overrides the file in the library. So if we create a local file which is called grid.php, it will replace this file, and we can do more things here.
Yeah.
Without
any problems.
Yeah. So we're replacing the file which is basically a filler, and we can add something more advanced here. So I'm going to comment this one, but here I can do grid extends passive, just like there, and my god. So I get the same result, but now this class is used twice, on the left one and the right one. So it's depending on what you want to do. If you want to replace all the grid inside your application with this new, then this probably is a good idea. If you want to replace just one, you can do my like this. Okay, let's get back to this and redefine functions called format row. When we redefine, we call parent. And then let's say echo this current do that. Do wait. Much better. Okay, so if I output it before calling parent, it will look different. It's non-formatted state, but if it's after, then it's already been formatted. Okay, so I want to use existing formatting, but then also get some formatting from here, so I can parse it, because this is already formatted and I cannot control it. So I say date equals this and due date. I can just convert it into the Unix timestamp. And here, what I need to do is if date less than time, then I need to highlight it with red. So to highlight it, I'm just going to use font, yeah, or style. I know. Let's say font equals color red. We can also use style. This current due date. And we get one red. This one red as well, because it's not defined. So I can now do the condition here if date, and it's not been triggered by that. Yeah, so overdue tasks are red now.
Which is difficult to put a class rather than.
Yeah, but there are a few ways. So we could first of all, we can put it in the span. Span style color red, which does the same. But then there is another thing which called TD param. Now let me try to find how that works. There is some documentation actually. I think it's set to the param. Let's just try. So instead of but you might need to do it before formatting. I'm not sure. Maybe after. This set the param due date. Okay, that worked, but they're all red. And the third argument, okay, so it's like this, style and color. Okay, that makes sense. They're all red now. The reason is because we need to do once the parameter is applied, it's applied to the all rows. So if it's not due, we need to remove the style. So it's black again.
Of course.
Yeah, it's just
It's a different approach.
slightly, yeah. And again, this is because of performance and the way how grid works. It creates a template for a row. It takes data, it fills in all the fields. If you change the template, it reuses the same template on the next row, but then you need to change it back. So if you inspect this now, you see that it went into TD and there's no spans in there. The most efficient way.
Yeah. So it's done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the last thing, which we actually should have done a few times, it hung up. So it just shows us our current pages which we have. Now the page we don't want is config, because there's a potentially might be. So we need to ignore config. Everything else looks okay. So let's say it's day 1.
So config default, we can keep it.
Yeah, config default. We won't put it in there. Commit changes. So that was now it's not initialized yet. Okay. So when we click publish branch, it will send information to GitHub. Now what GitHub allows you to do is someone looks into your code and he likes it, but and he wants to play with it, like change few things around. He can fork, and there is it's empty. That's why I can't fork it. All right, so there we go. Everything is inside. Yeah. So we have 2 initial import, and then during day 1 we modified some of the files. From different account I can fork this, and I can work on some improvements, and then I can send you the changes through the system and you look at them and say, do you want or not to apply those changes? And this is how other people can contribute. They won't have access to change files inside your repository, but they can create a copy and modify and then suggest you to apply some of the fixes.